Buying T13 figures from Temu is basically a lottery, and you guys keep telling me that buying on Temu is a bad idea. Sometimes you get a rough 3D printed one, sometimes a surprisingly premium molded one, and sometimes two identical looking figures from the same seller arrive in completely different forms. That's exactly what happened to me. So, in today's video, printed, molded, and molded in frame T13 figures that look almost the same. So make sure you watch till the end, because we'll compare them properly, swap some parts, and decide which version is actually better to buy. And if you enjoy this kind of video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. I have many more interesting videos coming soon, and now let's find out what actually came in these frames. Let's start with my favorite part, the cleanup. Right away, my first impression is that the plastic feels a bit better than on some of the other figures I've built. It looks like there are way fewer extra plastic bits, but let's take a closer look. And yeah, these pieces are actually really smooth. They barely need any cleaning at all. This figure definitely feels like better quality. Which is honestly surprising because my previous molded Spider-Man figure was a total struggle. I spent so much time cleaning those pieces. And then on top of that, I accidentally mixed up some parts. So the whole video turned into something pretty interesting. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It ended up being a 3-part series, and in the end, I even made a custom Spider-Man. With this figure, I still decided to clean the pieces a little bit, but honestly, that's just because I'm a perfectionist. It really wasn't necessary, and I probably could have started building right away. I cleaned the yellow pieces first, and then I checked the black ones too, but there was almost no extra plastic on them. Just look at the difference. This new figure has so much less plastic waste compared to the previous blue one. And here are those two pieces I mixed up in that video. They look almost identical, so definitely keep that in mind when you're building. Now let's start the assembly. I'll still do a tiny bit of cleanup during the build, but overall, the pieces are already pretty clean. However, the armor on the forearm is a little loose, which is kind of strange. I don't think I've seen this issue on any other figures. It would probably be better to glue it, but this is an honest review, so for now, let's continue the build as it is. The rest of the pieces fit together really well, and the assembly is going really fast. Maybe even surprisingly fast. The set also comes with female shoes, but I want to build a male figure, so let's use a regular foot instead. And it fits perfectly. That's actually great, because in some of my previous videos, the feet didn't hold very well, and I had to glue them. There's also a female torso piece included, but for now we're building the male version. I also got a small package today. If you remember in one of my previous videos where I was building the Spider-Man mech, the strap on my watch broke. I replaced it with a blue one, but today I finally got a new orange strap and a case. Let's quickly put it together. And here's how the watch looks now. By the way, which version do you like more? Or maybe I should bring back the white one. Now let's get back to the build and move on to the body. Starting with the chest panel. Wait, what is this? I don't remember the Dummy 13 chest panel being made from two separate pieces. This white one from another set has one solid chest panel. The gold 3D printed figure is the same. And on this blue and orange one, you can clearly see I'm attaching one solid blue chest panel too. But on this new figure, the chest panel is split into separate parts. Interesting. Okay, let's finally finish the figure. We attach the arms, then the legs, and wow, all these armor pieces fit really well. Honestly, this figure is actually super satisfying to build. Next is the head. I had to clean it just a little bit. And now let's move on to the wings. What's interesting here is that the wings are 3D printed, but they attach to smooth molded joints. And here's the final figure. Okay, now let's look at the white figure that came already assembled. I'll show it quickly here, but if you want to see the full review, check out my previous Dummy 13 video, where I built and reviewed this figure in detail. For this one, I decided to replace the waist with a feminine version and turn it into a female figure. But it turned out the torso was loose, so I fixed it with a little air dry clay. After that, it stopped wobbling. I also replaced the upper chest panel with the female version, and this is how the figure turned out. Then I decided to swap the feet too, because the set also included female feet with heels. But one of the toes turned out to be loose. Honestly, this figure has quite a few problems. The yellow one actually felt better, even though I had to assemble it myself. Now let's attach the wings. Here, everything works the same way as on the yellow figure. You know what? I really don't like this loose toe, and now it just fell off completely. So let's switch back to the regular male feet without heels. And here the leg doesn't hold either. Like, not at all. Yeah, this figure definitely has a lot of issues. Okay, I'll just glue this foot in place and not think about it anymore. And here are a few shots of the finished figure. Now let's compare the 3D printed and the molded figures. Which one is actually better to buy, and why? From a distance, they look pretty similar, but because of this 3D printed texture, you can hear it, right? The joints don't move as smoothly. It's especially noticeable with the weapon. It literally squeaks. The movement feels rough and not very smooth because of the 3D printed parts. And honestly, I'm not sure I really like the look of this figure with all those visible layer lines. But with this molded figure, everything is smooth. You can't even hear any noise. Everything moves really nicely, and the body itself is smooth too. Here are two more figures. This printed one does look a little better than some of the others I've tested. But still, I wouldn't say it's on a completely different level. The waist also feels pretty tight when I rotate it.
6, 7.
So now let's compare these two figures from the same seller. They're basically the same figure, just in different colors. And the funny thing is, in the product photos, they were even shown in the same person's hand. So of course, I had no doubt that I would receive more or less the same thing. But in the end, as you saw, one figure came fully assembled and the other one came as a kit. In the end, both of them turned out to be molded, but the wings are 3D printed. So this is actually kind of a mix between molded and printed parts. What's interesting is that the yellow figure ended up being better quality. And I was also able to clean the pieces a little more myself, so the final result looks really nice. The white figure had problems. The waist was loose and the feet didn't fit well. Both the female shoe and the regular male foot had issues. But the yellow figure has some downsides as well. For example, the wing doesn't attach perfectly. It holds, but it's not ideal. And again, the interesting part is that the wings are 3D printed, while the joints they attach to are smooth, molded plastic. And on this figure, it's basically the same thing, just in a different color. Another interesting detail is that both figures cost exactly the same, $6 each. But one of them arrived already assembled, and the other one had to be built. So with the yellow one, there was definitely more work to do. As for the smoothness, movement, and overall quality, I'd say they're basically the same. By the way, this white figure had a slightly loose torso. I forgot to check that on the yellow one, so let's do it now. Looks like the yellow figure also has a loose waist, so this seems to be a common problem. Actually, in the previous video, all the female figures we built had a slightly loose torso. Honestly, I still don't know why this happens. So if you want to build a female figure permanently, I would probably recommend gluing this part. Now, it may seem like I always recommend molded figures because they're usually better quality, smoother, and just nicer to move. But that's not always true. For example, let's remember this Spider-Man figure that I built in one of the most popular videos on my channel. This figure was actually pretty low quality, even though it was molded and came on frames. It's not even close to this new one, where everything bends nicely, fits tightly, nothing is loose, and there were almost no extra plastic bits anywhere. But with this Spider-Man, I had to clean almost every single piece. You'll see the footage now, and you can also see that in some places the parts ended up being much looser. Basically, this figure was a real nightmare. So no, molded is not always better. Honestly, I don't think I've ever had 3D printed figures this bad. The worst printed ones were probably the very first Dummy 13 figures I bought. One piece even broke, and the articulation wasn't great. But still, even the worst 3D printed Dummy 13 figures in my collection feel better than this molded Spider-Man. So yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time trying to turn something really bad into something at least decent. Some molded figures that come on frames can be so annoying that you don't even want to build them. you just want to throw them away. So from my experience, pre-assembled molded figures are usually better. But molded figures that come on frames, where you have to build everything yourself, are definitely not always good. Now what's interesting about 3D printed figures? For example, I have this figure with really thick visible print lines. And honestly, this is actually one of the better figures. Even though it still has a lot of issues, but the color is really interesting. Speaking of color, I also have this shiny gold one. The knee does fall off here though, but I haven't seen colors like this on molded figures yet. And as you can see, this one is 3D printed and this one is 3D printed too, but the texture is completely different. On this figure, the layers are much smaller and not as visible. And on this one, the layers are much thicker. You can clearly see them, and I think they should be visible on camera too. So even with 3D printed figures, the print quality can be very different. You could say this one is badly printed because the texture is so obvious, but somehow it still looks pretty good. Of course, it is harder to move. Some of the best molded figures I have are these new white and yellow ones. But the absolute best ones are probably these figures that came as a set of 6 in one box. And the funny thing is, they were also the cheapest, about $1 per figure. Of course, they don't have any cool wings, and there's no female version either. But if we're talking only about quality, these are definitely the best ones. They didn't need any extra cleaning, all the parts rotate smoothly, and overall they just feel really good. So yes, I can definitely recommend them. And they also came with molded weapons and molded hands, which I haven't seen in any of my other figures. I also want to point out one important thing about 3D printed figures. You can usually find more exclusive versions with a lot of extra accessories. People often design something themselves and then 3D print it. For example, in the set with this black and red dummy, we had this really cool printed dog. And honestly, it's awesome. The quality is really good. But again, it's 3D printed, not molded. There are usually more 3D printed weapons too. And like I said before, these accessories came with some of the best printed figures I have. So overall, finding a molded figure with printed accessories and extra parts could actually be a really great combination.
Wow.
For example, you could use a molded skeleton with smooth joints and then add cool printed armor pieces on top. Actually, I don't even know if that would work, so let's try swapping some parts between these two completely different figures, just for fun. Nope, it doesn't work. Interesting. So some parts are actually unique. What's interesting is that this Dummy 13 has shorter forearms. It uses a different piece. This one has longer arms, and yeah, if you look closely, his arms almost reach his knees. Okay, I replaced the part, but it doesn't hold very well. It's pretty loose. Now let's see if we can swap the shoulder. No, that doesn't work either. Yeah, these parts really don't fit together very well. This printed part is just a little wider, so even though the figures look similar, they are still slightly different, and the parts are not that easy to swap. This isn't like a Kalashnikov where everything is easily interchangeable. Even a tiny fraction of a millimeter is enough for the part not to fit. I could probably sand this piece down a little because it's too thick, but I'm not going to do that right now. What if we try replacing the chest panel? At first glance, the silver one looks like it has some kind of special construction, so it probably won't work. But let's check. Surprisingly, the chest panel actually fits really well.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
So basically you can play around with swapping parts. It won't work every time, but sometimes it works really nicely. So here's my final verdict. For the main base, the skeleton. I think molded is the better choice. It can be pre-assembled or not, on frames or without frames, whatever you prefer. But molded figures usually feel nicer, smoother, and more satisfying to move. And 3D printed parts are better if you either make them yourself with a 3D printer or buy them as extra accessories. Weapons, armor pieces, replaceable parts, chest panels like this one, dogs, and other cool stuff. So in my opinion, the best combination is a smooth molded skeleton with unique 3D printed accessories. And that's the end of the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.